And time for the little pentagon portion. I've got something visible here that's bothering me, so I'm going to turn that visibility off. But if you look back at our cutout sketch from these wheels, there's what appears to be kind of a pentagon shape if you imagine it going all the way through the V. And that pentagon shape, I didn't put in there earlier because it would have gotten in the way when we were doing all the cutouts. So I'm going to put that in there now. And I could take this sketch and use that one to extrude through, but I think, well, actually, as a matter of fact, maybe I will. So since I've already got this thing all set up, I'm going to be careful not to mess anything else up. I am going to do a polygon with 5 sides. And I'm going to click in here, and I'm basically just going to try and line this up to where I think it looks pretty close to that setup here. So I think that's pretty good. We'll see what that looks like. So I've got that, and I'm going to do this as an extrude. Come on, Benner. I'm going to extrude just that guy. And I'll do that down. Now, what I am going to do this, I'm going to extrude it to the bottom. I don't want it to be part of that solid yet. I want this to temporarily be a new solid. I'll explain momentarily. So I'm going to temporarily go, you are a new solid, which means now, and I'll even label them, rim, wheel, I keep going back and forth, whatever you want to call it. So that's the wheel, and then this is the pentagon. And there's a benefit to temporarily making this thing its own solid, and I will show you momentarily. I haven't decided if I want to have those little holes on there or not. We'll kind of decide when we get a little further along. But once I do that, that's its own solid. Now it's sticking way up here, that's no good. But what I'm going to do is then put a sketch here, project cut edges, finish sketch, and extrude this because I don't think it comes out all the way. And really, you can drag it down to where you think it looks good. Like, we don't have measurements here, or you can type in different values. But I'm going to do a cut, and I'm going to make sure that this thing is doing this to the pentagon solid, so not this solid. So if I hit solids, I could select which one. For example, if I wanted to make it part of the wheel, I could. I do not. I want it to be part of this one as a cut. And when it does that cut, you'll notice it didn't touch the actual spokes that we had there. That's because they are 2 separate solids. So that's one of the benefits of doing 2 separate solids. You can put things that are overlapping, and then when you do them or mess with them, it doesn't affect the other one because they're 2 separate solids. I could do this with this one invisible, but for right now it's kind of helpful to see if it looks good if I have it visible. So that looks pretty good. Now, I can't tell in the image too much, but I don't think this would be sharp. So I'm going to do a fillet. You could do a chamfer if you wanted to, whatever you think looks good. I just imagine probably a fillet there. So again, this fillet, it goes all the way through, and it doesn't have to worry about this where it's intersecting this one, the wheel, because they're separate solids. So if I fillet that, then we get a pretty smooth look through there. I think that looks pretty nice. And so I'm pretty good with that. If I wanted to change that extrusion, maybe I want it to have more of be more open there. And I could change this to something a little more. Kind of like that. Shows a little bit more of this. But that's, well, actually, you know what? Now that I say that, maybe that's too much. 0.13. Huge difference. Alright, so that looks pretty good. From there, like I said, we don't need the little holes for the lug nuts. So I'm not going to put them in there. If you felt like putting them in there, you could. But for the way this thing mounts to it, we don't need it. And I don't know if it's going to add too much to it if we do put them in there. So for right now, I'll do it without them. If somebody wants to see them, then maybe I'll do another video at the end that shows how those look. But so far, this thing's looking pretty good. Now, as mentioned, I could have done a fillet there, or if I wanted to do a chamfer all the way around, any of those would be fine. I will now, just to kind of get an idea of how things are looking here, I'm going to combine. So I'm going to do combine. And I want this solid and that solid to be joined together. So by doing this, now they are all just this solid. So for example, if I want to try and fillet things, like I tried to fillet this edge over here, it's going to be that intersection between those two because they're all the same thing. So it's going to act like I had made them all together at the same time, but I didn't. Now that I've got that, I can go back to that original revolve that I did. I'll make that visible. And now I can revolve this outer portion as well, and that inner portion. Now again, since the cutouts didn't go all the way to the edge, I probably could have in the first place when I did my revolve, if I travel back in time, revolved all of this at the same time. However, I wasn't sure if it was going to, so I just didn't do it then. It's very easy to make that sketch visible. Do a new revolve with the same axis, and all of a sudden this thing starts looking like an actual wheel. Oh, that looks nice. Now when I did that revolve, it put this little extra bit in there, and that came from me doing a little too much. So what I might do is I might deal with that by doing this. So I'm going to go and I think what I'll do is I will not do that combine yet, and then this revolve that I did here, I'm going to make sure that that is part of the wheel, which it is, because then I can sketch here. I could change my revolve path, but I think this will be easier. Check my cut edges, and I can extrude this. It's basically just cut this out. If I click on the bottom of the pentagon, that should get rid of that extra little bit, and now I should have, yeah, now I'm back to where I was, where I had that nice smooth transition in there. So by doing that separately, so when I did that, it made this happen. So this doesn't actually connect to anything, but it overlaps or becomes part of the pentagon. It touches right up against it. So now when I do the combine, now it's all one solid, and it looks smooth. Now, when I did that, it made it the pentagon. If I undo and show you a different order, I should be able to go wheel, then pentagon, and it'll keep the name of the wheel. So whatever one you first click on, that's the base component, or the base solid, and that's going to keep its name. If it give it a different name, it's very easy to come back and change it, but I think that looks pretty good. And then I think for me, when this thing mounts to the Honorable Blocks vehicle, I think I would like this to be filleted a little bit. Might try the 0.05. And yeah, I think that looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to stop that there. If you want to put the holes in, I'll show you how you can put the holes in there. But yeah, there's your wheel. If you wanted to kind of clean some things up a little bit, you could throw a fillet on here to give it a little smoother transition there, maybe a fillet there. Nobody's really going to see that part of it, but feel free to change it if you like. Some of the other Automobile Blocks vehicles will have a chamfer there instead of a fillet, but I think that looks pretty good. So I might just roll with that. Feel free to choose any dimensions that you like. And yeah, let's get this thing all looking pretty. Perspective, some reflections, draw my shadows on there, realistic. Maybe throw a ground plane. Nice ground plane, super big. Grid. We can make it all sorts of colors. That does not look good. I'm going to go back to play around with that if you felt like. But I think that's looking pretty good. So if I was making this myself, I might say that's a completed wheel that we can later build an axle to fit in there that'll match up just right. But like I said, I think that looks pretty good. So I'll stop this video here, and then if you wanted to put the holes on it, I'll have another video that shows you how to do that. But that looks pretty good. Turn off perspective, because working in perspective is not the most fun. Turn off that ground plane. But yeah, wheel. There you go.